I saw this comment pretty late last night. I did want to talk about it, but it was late, and I just wanted this person to know that they were wrong, and I was right, that it was reported that Queen Elizabeth did in fact call Kate lazy. I remember when it was happening in real time, and then this other person on the follow-up video posted this comment right above me here. I thought you idiots didn't believe the media. I never said that. Never, not once on my page have I ever said I didn't believe the media. Literally, all these two people had to do was fact check, go and Google, did Queen Elizabeth reportedly call Kate lazy? The answer was yes. And also, like, this person could have just looked through some of my old videos and saw that I frequently post reports, articles that are written about these people. What I find interesting is that whether it's true or not, obviously we don't know. What we do know is that Prince Harry has said that the royal family works with these tabloid magazines to get stories out. Obviously, I don't think they're going to report that Queen Elizabeth herself called Kate lazy. However, what's that old saying? The proof is in the pudding. She didn't work. That's when they used to call her Waity Katie, right? Like, she had little jobs here and there, but it was known that she never had a career, unlike Meghan before meeting Prince Harry. And then upon meeting Prince Harry, they forced her to shut down her lifestyle brand. And among other things that she did, Kate did not work. She literally waited around. We could see this with our own eyes, whether it was reported or not working, waiting for Prince William to propose to her. That's what happens. I'm old enough to remember, the same age of all these people. I'm old enough to remember while it was happening in real time. But what's so funny to me is how they are so quick to use their little logic, although they were wrong, to try and defend William and Kate, but can't seem to find the same logic, compassion, common sense to do the same for Prince Harry and Meghan. So they are able to not believe everything that they read. I never said that it was true, but was it reported? Yes, it was. And if it hurts your feelings, that's not my problem. And to piggyback off my original video where they are now calling William lazy, it tracks. It tracks. Like, they track how many engagements, public engagements they do, how much they're working, and it's there. So if you don't like it, talk to William and have him work some more. Same thing with Kate. They are one of the laziest royals that they've ever had. I personally don't care. Someone's like, why do you care? I don't. I only talk about it to prove the hypocrisy, how things are reported. That's the only report I've seen where they call him lazy, and it was an American publication. The same reason that they talk about Meghan on a daily on British publications when she's an American and lives in America. So I will talk about them if I want to. And I found it humorous. I'm just sharing what I found to be humorous. And if some of you think it's funny, great. Those are my TikTok friends. If you don't think it's funny and want to come on here and like, I thought you idiots. First of all, we don't need to use words like that. Did your mom and dad not teach you that you don't have to insult people? And also, fact check. It's that simple. Or just keep scrolling.
And it's that time that the royalists absolutely hate. And you won't find any royalists commenting in the thread of this particular video because the data and the facts are undeniable. And I've got to say, for July, the work that Kate and William produced was an historical lazy attempt. I mean, I've not seen working days this low for absolutely months. So despite the media trying to convince you guys that they work all the time, the data and the reality is far different. So in summary, get to the point, Martin. They both worked in the whole month 3 full days each. That includes the half days that they've worked, and most of Kate's time was working at Wimbledon. Get your head around that for a moment. They both had 26 full days off from any form of public work. Kate had 3 days at Wimbledon. Don't know what William got up to. No one really cares. He's not that interesting. Get your head around that. These two are the future unelected heads of state with unlimited time, resources and money. And the most they wanted to work in July was 3 days each. And this family is meant to be setting an example to the rest of the United Kingdom.
I've said it before and I stand by it, guys. I stand by it. William and Kate are not very bright. I'm going to support that. These two people are not very intelligent. Neither of them. Not only are they lazy, along with being lazy, they are not bright. They are thick-headed. They are unintelligent people. Because if you by now have not taken the time and the initiative to build your team, I don't give them grace. I don't give them excuses. I don't accept the bullshit. I'm not going to. Now you might, and that's completely up to you. God bless, but I'm not. These folks have had over 15, 20 years to get it right. And you still can't do it? You still can't find the right team? You still can't follow the right team? Tanya M says it's also the people around them, but that's why you get the right team. You've not been able to put together the right team in all this time? Guys, it's 2024. Kate and William dated off and on for 10 years, and then they've been married since 2011. You don't get grace. You don't get excuses. You don't get, oh, well, maybe. You get nothing from me except the fucking truth. You are lazy, trifling, and not very intelligent. And all of your performative bullshit is only being magnified even more so now because while the British media thinks they're doing you guys a favor, they're not. What they're doing is highlighting the fact that you are mediocre at best.
It looks like some people in the media finally have the same questions that I do about these two, which is, what work are they doing exactly? There has been a call for a full disclosure of the royal family's lazy work schedule this year, because as we have seen, these two have been on vacation at least 5 times this year. And obviously Prince Charles is sickly, but he hasn't been around much. Princess Anne is too old, and Andrew can no longer work for the royal family, as we know. These two only leave the house when Meghan and Harry are spotted anywhere in the world, which makes for a very awkward schedule, since most of their visits are surprises and last minute. All this as they are about to take on the biggest role in the royal family in the next couple years, I assume, instead of trying to set up different causes for themselves to focus on. They are just taking their vacations now so that it won't be so obvious when they are king and queen. The only thing that they have foreshadowed on the docket is removing royal titles from Andrew and from Meghan and Harry, because their only focus at this point is Meghan and Harry.
Look, let's keep it 100. Hearing that the late Queen called Kate lazy back in the day is the least surprising news of the century. You mean to tell me a billionaire royal who was already ancient in the 2000s looked at a 20-something hanging out at ski resorts and thought, yeah, she ain't putting in hours? Shocking. Truly groundbreaking stuff. But let's be real about William and Kate right now. The funny part isn't even the old gossip. It's the fact that the Queen was actually onto something. These two have elevated doing the bare minimum to an absolute art form. Their work week looks like a standard person's lunch break. They show up to a youth centre, cut one ribbon, hit a ping pong ball twice for the camera, and then clear out for a 3-week vacation in the countryside. That's not a job, that's an appearance fee. Regular people are out here pulling 50-hour weeks just to afford rent and groceries, while Will and Kate drop a polished Instagram reel once a month and act like they just built the Hoover Dam with their bare hands. For anyone working a real 9-to-5, this entire situation is a hilarious reminder of how the ultra-rich operate. They treat waving at crowds like manual labour. The Queen was from that old school generation where you had to fake like you were working every single day until you were 96. Will and Kate, they aren't even trying to fake it. They do 3 ribbon cuttings, clap for some charity, and then vanish into a palace until the next quarter. At the end of the day, calling Kate lazy back then wasn't royal drama, it was just an early performance review. And honestly, the rating still stands. Okay, squaddies, can we have a little reality check? Because at this point, the predictions about Harry and Meghan are starting to sound like that one friend who keeps saying, just wait, you'll see. You wait, nothing happens. You wait another year, still nothing. Another prediction, still nothing. At this stage, somebody needs to take the crystal ball away, because for years we've heard the same story. Harry and Meghan are finished. They're going to disappear. Nobody will care anymore. Their projects will fail. The public will move on. Their relevance will vanish. Apparently, the Sussexes were always just one bad Tuesday away from becoming completely forgotten. And yet, here we are, still talking about Harry and Meghan, still watching their appearances, still discussing their projects, still seeing their names dominate conversations whenever they step into the public eye. At some point, you've got to look at the scoreboard, because you can't keep announcing somebody's downfall every 6 months when the person you're predicting will disappear keeps showing up. That's not a prediction anymore, that's a subscription. Welcome back to another episode of Harry and Meghan Are Finished, episode 147. Same plot, different day. And here's what makes it even funnier. Some of the people who insist they don't care about Harry and Meghan seem to know absolutely everything about Harry and Meghan. They know where they went. They know what Meghan wore. They know what Harry said. They know what project they're working on. They know which photograph was posted. They know what some random commentator said about them. They know the entire timeline. But they're irrelevant. Oh, really? Then why are you keeping receipts? Why are you watching? Why are you commenting? Why are you writing articles? Why are you making videos? Why are you still arguing about two people who supposedly don't matter? Make it make sense. And I'm not saying every person who talks about Harry and Meghan is a fan. Obviously not. People can be critical. That's normal. But there is a difference between criticism and spending years waiting for somebody's life to collapse. That's when it gets weird. Because regular people understand something very simple. If somebody leaves your life and you genuinely don't care anymore, you move on. You don't wake up every morning checking whether they're failing. You don't monitor their every move. You don't sit there waiting for the next disaster. You don't need a spreadsheet. You just get on with your own life. That's why the constant predictions about Harry and Meghan are so interesting. The Sussexes didn't follow the script that certain people expected. They left royal duties. They built a life somewhere else. They developed their own projects. They continued supporting causes that matter to them. They kept their own friendships. They kept working. They kept appearing. And most importantly, they kept going. That's the part people underestimate about life. Sometimes winning doesn't mean becoming the most powerful person in the room. Sometimes winning is simply refusing to fall apart because somebody else expected you to. You don't have to answer every critic. You don't have to clap back at every headline. You don't have to spend your whole life proving people wrong. Sometimes you just keep moving, and eventually the results speak for you. That's what I think Harry and Meghan have done. They didn't need to spend every waking moment announcing, we're still relevant. They just continued living. And then another appearance happens, another project, another headline, another public conversation, another room full of cameras. And suddenly the people who predicted their disappearance are back explaining why their continued visibility somehow doesn't count. Well, what exactly would count? Do Harry and Meghan need to personally knock on the door of every critic and say, excuse me, we've passed the relevance test? No, they're busy living their lives. And that's actually the healthiest response. Because think about your own life. How many people have ever underestimated you? Maybe somebody told you that you wouldn't get the job, wouldn't succeed, wouldn't make it on your own, wouldn't recover from a difficult period, wouldn't build something better. And what happens? You keep going. You learn, you work, you figure things out, and eventually you don't even care what that person said anymore. That's the sweet spot, when somebody else's opinion stops controlling your mood. And that's why I think the Sussex story connects with ordinary people more than some critics realise, because Harry and Meghan aren't the only people who've ever been told, you won't make it without us. People hear that every other. Employees hear it, divorcees hear it, people starting businesses hear it, people changing careers hear it, people leaving toxic environments hear it. And sometimes the greatest response isn't an argument. It's building a life that proves you didn't need the situation you left behind. Harry and Meghan have had years of predictions thrown at them, but they haven't disappeared. They haven't stopped attracting attention. They haven't stopped creating conversations, and they certainly haven't stopped living their lives. So maybe it's time to retire the "this is finally the end for Harry and Meghan" headline, because every time that prediction comes back, Harry and Meghan are still here, still together, still moving forward, still doing their thing, and still giving people something to talk about. At some point, you don't need to defend yourself anymore. You just look at the person who said you'd never make it, look at where you are now, and smile, because the results have already answered the question. And squaddies, if Harry and Meghan's biggest crime is refusing to become the failure other people predicted, then honestly, keep disappointing them.
Let's be real for a second. Harry and Meghan clocking out of the royal rat race is the ultimate quit your toxic job flex. Think about it. We've all worked at a place where the boss is micromanaging your breathing and HR is secretly taking notes on how you drink your coffee. Leaving that circus behind? That isn't a loss. That's a promotion to peace of mind. They packed up, grabbed their kids and built a whole fresh setup where nobody is checking a palace calendar to see if they're allowed to go outside. Harry looks like a guy who finally stopped waking up to a loud alarm clock. He's out here biking, chilling with his family, and picking project calls when he wants to. That's the real goal. Winning isn't showing up at your ex-boss's doorstep to prove you made it. Winning is forgetting their email address entirely. Meanwhile, back in the UK, William and Kate are still running the ultimate ghost job. They pull up to one charity event, smile for 3 photos, and head right back to their mansion like they just put in a hard shift at the coal mines. They take the tax dollars, take the parks, and hand back the bare minimum. Regular people are grinding 40+ hours a week just to pay electricity bills, and these two treat shaking hands once a week like heavy lifting. Harry and Meghan figured out the cheat code early. Stop asking for permission from people who don't care if you burn out. They stepped away, made their own moves, and left the lazy royalty to do what they do best. Absolutely nothing. Look, let's stop pretending for 5 minutes. We're out here setting 3 alarms, dragging ourselves through 40-hour work weeks, and sweating over rent while some guy wearing a gold hat sits on a velvet chair preaching to us about duty and hard work. You can't make this stuff up. It's completely wild. They drop these grand speeches about how we all need to pull together, tighten our belts, and stay resilient during tough times. Meanwhile, their idea of a brutal shift at the office is cutting a silk ribbon with giant silver scissors or waving at a crowd from a palace balcony for 10 minutes. If any regular person pulled that kind of effort at their job, they'd be fired before their lunch break. For everyday people, this isn't just annoying, it's a total joke. You're working your tail off just to keep the lights on, watching every penny at the grocery store, and then you turn on the news to see millionaires living in a literal castle telling you to stay strong. It's totally out of touch with real life. People aren't dumb, they see the game now. We're the ones carrying the load, doing the heavy lifting and keeping society running, while the folks at the top get a pass just for being born into the right family tree. If the monarchy is supposed to be the ultimate role model for the public, they're failing the audition. At this point, asking regular folks to respect that setup isn't just asking a lot, it's pure comedy. And squaddies, this is where the whole thing gets really interesting, because strip away the titles, strip away the palace, strip away the royal schedule, strip away all the official machinery, what are you left with? Harry and Meghan. And guess what? People are still watching, still talking, still taking notice, still following what these two are doing. That tells you something, because if all of Harry and Meghan's appeal came from the institution, then leaving it should have been the end of the story. Simple, right? No palace, no royal duties, no official royal event, therefore, no attention. Except that's not what happened, not even close. They stepped away and built a completely different public life. They created projects, they supported causes, they developed friendships and professional relationships, they appeared at major events, they built their own platforms, and every time they pop up somewhere, suddenly the cameras are there and everybody has something to say. The people who said nobody will care about them without the monarchy, well, apparently somebody forgot to tell the public, because here we are. And I love how this works in ordinary life. Think about somebody who leaves a company. There's always that one person who says, oh, they'll never make it without this place. Really? Then 6 months later, that person has started their own business. They're doing well. They're happier. They're meeting new people. And the person who predicted their failure is still sitting in the old office asking everybody, have you heard what they're doing? Sir, you said you didn't care. Why are you conducting a full investigation? That's exactly why I think Harry and Meghan's story hits a nerve with regular people, because everybody understands what it's like to leave something behind and wonder whether you can make it on your own. A job, a relationship, a friendship, a career, a familiar environment. Sometimes walking away is terrifying because people will tell you, you need us, you can't do this without us, you'll regret leaving. And then comes the hardest part, you actually have to build something new. Harry and Meghan did that in full public view, and unlike most people, they had millions of people waiting to see whether they would fail. Imagine that pressure. You start a new chapter and the whole internet is standing there with popcorn. Let's see how long this lasts. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are like, anyway, what's next? That's the difference. They didn't spend their entire lives trying to recreate what they left. They created something different. And that's important, because independence doesn't mean pretending the past never happened. It means the past doesn't control your future. Harry can always be Diana's son. He can always have been a working member of the royal family. He can always carry that history. But he doesn't have to spend the rest of his life being defined by an institution. And Meghan doesn't have to spend her life trying to squeeze herself into somebody else's idea of what a royal woman should look like. They can simply be themselves, Harry and Meghan. And honestly, that's the part I think some people still struggle with. They keep trying to measure the Sussexes against the palace. Who has more attention? Who gets more headlines? Who looked better? Who had the bigger event? Who got more coverage? It's like watching two people who have already left the competition and screaming, come back, we're still keeping score. They're not playing that game anymore. That's the whole point. Harry and Meghan aren't walking around trying to prove they're still working royals. They're not begging for an invitation back into the old system. They're building their own lane. Thank you all for watching. I am your host, Miles. Blessed week ahead. God bless you all, and thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.